said when we started this conversation, this is the new normal, and it's a matter of who can adapt to it the fastest that will move into the next world, which is a completely digital world, as you can see by us all sitting here in a digital meeting and digital conference.
Yes.
So
New normal, I think a new normal that will be normal for as long as this present moment lasts.
all we have is the moment. Everything
Exactly.
else is the perspective. We only exist in the moment. Everything else is just a perspective.
Yes, and I also believe that many of us, at least I can definitely speak for myself, would never want to go back to the old normal.
That's a good point. I don't think any of us want that world again. And as far as the new world that we have an opportunity to rebuild it anywhere we want now, because we're at zero. Everybody from the larger corporations all the way down to the small entrepreneur is starting at zero. And so now we have to decide on which direction we're going to go. And the choice that we make in this turn in the direction that we go this time will make the difference of us either being on this earth for a while longer or perishing from this earth. So we have to make that.
So that's basically what I was thinking, but I would just want to hear from you. That really I really don't want to go back to the old normal. And then that's why I'm seeing that where we go from here. Again, I'm just here to listen to yours. So maybe Sam's going to introduce himself so we can formally start this meeting. And then we can start with Sam introducing himself. We're gonna flow. We have as long as you all want to.
Well, ladies are first. Come on.
Okay. Yes, the ladies first. Yes,
ladies
I'm the
first.
first.
Okay, come on. There we go. Come on down.
And maybe my quick question for you, Samuel, is: are we waiting for other people to jump on, or are we just flowing with whatever?
Now we really don't need anybody to jump on, but people are going. If they will jump on, we jump on. But we really need to record this so people can see all over the world. So
okay, wonderful. So we're all put on the spot, right?
Exactly.
You know, I appreciate it. I appreciate you asking me to speak and share my views and my personal perspective on the situation, because when you first, I think I mentioned it to you perhaps on the phone, when you first asked me, my first reaction was actually to hide, because I hadn't even realized how much I was experiencing the sense of ambiguity and loss of identity in this phase, that I almost felt like, oh, I don't even know really who I am right now. Like, who am I to speak in this moment? And then, of course, just even within a minute, of course, my mindset changed, because I actually, it was a useful invitation to share and to reflect on these issues together. So did you say I should introduce myself briefly first? And then
definitely, people hearing from you need to know who's talking, right?
Yeah, okay, well, hello everybody to whoever's joining. And I'm Anna Katrina Davy, and I was born and raised in Trieste, Italy. I consider myself having various cultural identities and being a little bit of a cultural chameleon with the various experiences and places I've lived in. For the last 15 years, I've been professionally helping companies succeed in global markets by training their employees to recognize, manage, leverage, and transcend cultural differences, which are inherent or show up within work with global teams, new market entry, mergers, expatriates working abroad, and workplace diversity in general. In the last 2 years, I would say 2 to 3 years, I've been transitioning a little bit from the identity, my long identity of somebody who bridges cultures through intercultural training, to somebody who curates culture and creates culture and is the change that I want to see. So I was feeling at some point, although I always felt like I was, say, fictional number 80% on track with bridging cultures and as an intercultural trainer, because I thought this is who I am and I'm fostering peace. ultimately through the work that I'm doing by fostering dialogue and understanding amongst people, but it still felt a little bit passive. And because as an intercultural trainer, you are very much in the role of accepting cultures just the way they are, with practicing complete non-judgment, of course, which is always a good thing. But I was feeling the urge to actually foster change and promote more of a, and cultivate more of a culture, which I think is worthwhile cultivating. And so I've been doing that a little bit in the last few years through various collective leadership events. And I think COVID has presented us all, and definitely me, with the opportunity to practice more of what I've started practicing in the past couple of years, which are things such as learning to navigate ambiguity and being okay with that, being okay with the unknown and seeing the positive in the unknown, learning how to navigate that and seeing possibility. And also what it has definitely encouraged me to do is to further practice the art, I would like to say, of non-doing. We live, especially here in the US, in a culture with a dominant narrative that always doing and being busy is a good thing. Mm. And I think that stems from some kind of existential unease. And I think there is a lot that can be accomplished, and very powerful things that can be accomplished by intentionally practicing non-doing, which doesn't mean never do anything. Of course, there's a place for everything, but I think that it's important to practice stillness until we know what we are supposed to do, so that we actually aren't compulsively doing things out of habit, but rather out of inspired action. So I think COVID has definitely presented us with this opportunity, because the world has come to a sudden halt. And just to continue trying to do things as we were doing this before would be pretty much madness. And also, to create a better world, we have to pause and first develop the consciousness that we need to develop in order to have a better world, because we cannot create a better world if we keep the old consciousness. And so I think it's a lot like being okay with pausing, being okay with sitting with things until we get a clear answer as to what is to be done. Because otherwise it's just like being in the middle of a maze and running around the maze just for the sake of doing something without pausing and reflecting about how the maze might be built and what the strategy might be to get out of it. So that's part of what I'm seeing right now.
Definitely. So happy. What I really heard about what you're saying is that we got to pause and reflect what to do. Very powerful, because yeah, we need to pause and wait, do nothing, waiting, you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, thanks so much for that, because like I said, that's the reason why you are here. So and then Sam, can you add your voice to this, please?
Sure. Sam Alexander. I'm CEO of Concept to Consumption. I do product development and marketing, logistics, and branding for companies. What we see happening now is a complete change of era. And not only is it a change of era, but it's a change of dimensions. And as I said earlier, we are moving into a new era, and it's bringing on a lot of transition for people that they never would have expected. But as you already know, Samuel, I've been telling people to be prepared for this for a very long time because we knew it was coming. And the only difference is we didn't expect this major change to happen until 2025, and this pandemic has escalated it to where it's moving at a very fast pace. And what we're looking at right now is everything's at zero. Everybody from the major companies all the way down to your smallest entrepreneur are starting from ground zero, and we're rebuilding a complete new world. And as far as the new normal, the new normal is what we decide we want it to be now, and we have that choice. And the choice of not making the choice and going back to the way we were may not give us a lifespan that we would like to have here, because the earth is not happy with us. And there's a lot of things going on. And if you hadn't noticed the calmness in the air since this pandemic has come, there's also a cleansing of the air and a change of the environment going back to its natural state from the way that we've disrupted it as human beings. And what we have to realize is that we are one of many groups of people that have lived on this earth. And we may not be the last. And we may not have much longer if we don't make a decision to change now and move in a direction that's going to be conducive to maintaining the biosphere that we live in. And our opportunity is now to make these changes. We have technologies, we have ways of doing things, but we have to walk away from the old world, because it's like when people were driving horse and buggies and they invented the car. There was a lot of people that were displaced, and there's a huge displacement right now. The key is that we don't waste our money the way we've wasted it for the last few months, giving it to people so they'll have a fish to eat for a day. We have to start training people to function in this new world that has evolved, and giving them trainings for the new opportunities that are coming for them. And I don't use the word job because I think the word job will not exist in a very short period of time.
That's powerful. Again, I hear that from you long time ago. And I definitely really happy that you are telling people what I know a long time ago, because I'm really afraid.
Samuel, can I share a screen, or is it okay? Can I share a screen and just go over a couple of things? I put together a little PowerPoint slide for you, just so we can kind of give you an idea of what I see in the transition and how we're dealing with it from our perspective.
Okay.
Okay.
See if you can share.
Okay, I'm sharing. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, what we're doing is we're moving into a new era. And not only are we moving into a new era, but we're moving into a new dimension. You're having a paradigm shift is what you're looking at now. The paradigm shift, anytime we have one, it's all because of new mobility, new energy, and new communications. And all those things have been here for a while, but people were in denial of the transition that we're going to. Ask people how many of them knew about Zoom 6 months ago. Ask them how many times they've used Zoom in the last 6 months. So we've already moved into a digital world, whether people like it or not. What we're also looking at is the biosphere. How do we continue to build and change the world that we live in? We're looking at a sharing economy. Right now, there's stranded assets all over the place. You've got human assets that are stranded. Cars are stranded assets. Clothing are stranded assets. And food. You've got people like Uber and Lyft that have actually taken advantage of those stranded assets and moved into a whole nother dimension, and also become multi-billion-dollar companies in an atmosphere where everybody else said that they thought the economy was coming apart. You've got Grubhub coming into the food area, off the rack in the clothing, and then the human position has moved into a gig economy. The word job is a word of the past. The word gig economy is the new world. What you have seen happen in the last few months is all the people that are working from home, they've been working from home for the last 6 months. And a lot of the corporations and a lot of governments and a lot of the education people are saying, wow, these people are more efficient this way than they were with me spending all this money on buildings and insurance and equipment. Why don't I just let them work from home? So you're going to see a huge effect on the commercial real estate market, which is going to be a huge effect on the banking system. So those are the weak points that are going to happen on the other side. On the other side, here in Austin, we are the new New York of the world. We are the Silicon Valley. We are the movie world. We are the music world. And you're going to see growth here like you can't imagine anywhere else in the world. The whole state of Texas will boom. Even with the petrochemical industry over in East Texas, they're having their issues right now. They will make the transition. Fortunately, most of the things that we do in oil are in petrochemicals and refinery, not so much in drilling for oil. West Texas will be affected by that a lot. Also, what we're moving into a circular economy versus a linear economy. Right now, we have to take these stranded raw assets and find out how to make the most of the aggregate efficiency of those products. Right now, with each product that's being developed, Japan is at the highest with 20% aggregate efficiency. The US is at 14%, and Germany is at 14.5. So we've got another 80% of products that we can use, and that's where your circular economy comes into place, is being able to take all raw materials and reuse them and bring out the capacity of those materials. The companies like China, India, and Africa are starting to consume at the rate that the US has been consuming at. So you're going to run into huge shortages of raw materials to produce the products that are needed globally. The physical world that we were in, we've moved into a digital world. And now the balance is, as Anna was talking about, is how do we balance ourselves in these worlds now? What is going to be the new normal for balancing yourself in a physical world and a digital world? Because now we're in another dimension. And this will only be one of many dimensions that we move to in a very short period of time. Because I can tell you from the technology that I already know exists out there, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 coming as far as new dimensions that we're about to move into. A lot of people have lost their jobs, but we already knew that by the year 2030, that 800 million people would lose their jobs to automation. But on the other side of it, there are all types of new opportunities coming. You just had Tesla build $1 billion facility here. You've got Apple building bio facilities. Google's building new towers. Oracle, all these major companies are coming in here and building new infrastructure for this city to offer new opportunities for the people that are here. So you've got, and just in the healthcare field alone, you got 130 million new jobs that are going to be available by the year 2030. You've got 20 million new jobs in energy and 50 million new jobs in robotic technology. And Tesla, you can already see, is a good sign of that, because that's going to be a complete robotic factory there. So all those people are going to have to be trained for operating, for repair, and for artificial intelligence that runs the machines. All kinds of new jobs are going to come available. But right now, the void is that we don't have the people qualified. So we're going to have to work at tri-sector. Tri-sector is where you get government, private industry, and education to work together. And the key word going forward will be stackable certifications. People will have to go back, engineers, all different types of industries, to be able to gather the stackable certifications to be able to utilize these new technologies that are coming into existence faster than most people can even imagine. So you're going to see also a complete change in the corporate structures. You've already seen subscription services like Netflix and Spotify come in and kill the movie industry, the theater industry. All these industries have been bypassed. You think about how many blockbusters there used to be that don't exist anymore. All those industries have had a lifespan and they weren't able to evolve, so they perished. And that's what's going to happen in the next 6 months, is you're going to see a lot of companies that won't be around any longer because they can't make this transition. They're not agile enough to make this transition. The three major handicaps of a company right now is a siloed mentality in the management, employees that won't evolve, and technology that is old and it doesn't communicate. It's not in a network. So those are going to be the three things that bring down most of the companies right now, not so much the virus. There are companies right now that are blowing up right now because of this virus. You can't find a bicycle anywhere in the city right now, because right now everybody's changed what their needs are and what they're buying. So what you have to right now do is identify what the new now is and what people are going to demand going forward. The home furnishing market is blowing up right now. There's a lot of markets that are geared to safety and comfort that are going crazy. So there's all kinds of opportunities in those areas now. You're going to see the government, when we finally get a new government, they're going to be a restructuring and reclassification of some of these large corporate companies. You're going to see Google and Facebook probably be reclassified as utilities. You're going to see Amazon probably broken up as a monopoly. And what you're going to see happen is nonprofits and benefit corporations will be the focus of the new companies coming forward. And you've got everything from L3Cs to B Corps all right now that are the focus of everyone trying to adapt to. So you're going to see a complete evolution. And what we have to decide now is how we view society. Will we view society as based on capitalism or based on a social need of helping each other to have a quality of life, not a quantity of life?
Extremely powerful. Yeah, extremely powerful, you know, but I know this one. You told me this many times. So that's normally, again, I'm here to make sure that other people hear what I'm hearing. And so that's exactly why we're here today. So I'm so grateful that you are accept to come here again. And yeah, and you have it as long as you want to talk here today, because we can chop them in pieces and share with other people. So,
Question for you, based on your background, and I'd like to know your perspective on where you see the transition from the job market to the gig economy. How do you see it affecting the majority of the people, and how will they make the adaptation?
Well, I will maybe let Anne take that one first.
That's why I said I'd like to hear from Anna based on her experiences, what your feelings would be on that.
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking to Samuel.
I'm speaking with you.
I don't, I guess, I mean, please do repeat the question. I don't feel like the question right now is speaking to me. But no, if you could, but that you're talking about the transition to the...
From being an employee, you said you train a lot of employees throughout the world. And right now we're seeing a transition from having employees to going into a gig economy. How will that, do you see that transition based on your training?
It's a good question, and I'll be honest, it's not been something that I think the difference between our perspectives is that you have a more practical perspective of looking at the more direct transition phase between now and the very near future. And I think I tend to be a little bit more idealistic and draw a longer bridge between what is now and what was, and what we want to create. I do very much feel that we are in a space, in a somewhat empty space between two stories, the old story and the new story. And I honestly don't know how we're going to bridge those two stories. And I think you have a more practical perspective as to that direct transition. I tend to think that ultimately we're not here to be, yeah, exactly. Like as you're saying, we're not here to be employees. It's about developing leadership, and which is collective leadership ultimately, and a leadership that comes from embodying the best version of ourselves and sharing our gifts, right? Leadership is not about hierarchy. Leadership is about service and sharing our gifts. And of course, that means more entrepreneurs, so to say. And so that's my broader perspective. I think I have the tendency to fear looking too much at the next step, because I'm concerned that if we haven't done the total thorough work with our consciousness and knowing really what kind of future we want to create, and at the same time, what kind of future wants to emerge. And by that, I mean not me as a person, as an individual, or even us as a group of leaders coming together and deciding, oh, this is what the best thing would be for our future, for humanity, but rather holding space for the future that wants to emerge with it through its own intelligence. intelligence, if that makes any sense.
And as far as the decentralized collaborative business space that we're moving into, what do you see how companies will be able to transcend, and what will be their effect of transcending into a decentralized business space where people are working from home?
I think I'd rather have Samuel speak to that.
So yeah, definitely, that's what I see too, because see, when I listen to Sam, I've been listening to him. It's a perspective that is that taken from what was going on to maybe shape the future from what we just came from, like Amazon, like Google. The people out there that trying to create another world that will be a continuity of what they be doing, like dominating the world. They want to own the world. That's my way to see it. So my viewpoint is, at this point, I see kind of opposition to the way that we were doing things. That's why I see that we down. The new normal for me is right now is really unknown. All those, everything that some have here is extremely powerful, because these are the people that are shaping the future the way they want it to be. See, this exactly Google and all this, they want that to be, but the life, they have some issue doing that, because some people just get tired. Some people really don't like the way it was. That's why a lot of people don't even want to go back to normal work. They don't want to go back to school. They don't want, so they want to reshape
right
life.
You're on it.
Yeah, they really want to maybe go back to the life they used to, they hear about long time ago that they thought were identified with. Some part of those old life that they were living, they feel like they're missing it, and that is slipping away. That's why maybe I hear in the election that America is not going to be the same if they vote this person or if they vote this person. So see, people are afraid that, you know, and they think like, no, this life we're living, maybe we need to do something else. All those are based on where we are. What Sam is picturing here is really that when we're trying to be, life try to push us. You go to Walmart now, you check out with the machine. There's no people serving you. So me personally, I got scared of that, because I know a lot of people were making money doing that. People feeding their family. Some people that they have skills were feeding families, serving, you know, checking people out and help some stuff at Walmart and all this. So extremely powerful what I just hear from here and there, and I'm so grateful again that you are share your view. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, we need to hear from a lot of people, so that.
If I can Samuel, if I can add a little bit to what you're saying and what I think I'm hearing, is that in some way, yeah, there is a sense of unease as to how things have been. And I think to some great extent, there was some form, to some point, of living in a bubble and a lot of self-deceit and wanting to convince ourselves that everything was fine, and wanting to convince ourselves that even as a society, the finance gurus would come up with the next solution for the next financial crisis, and that the scientists would come up with the next great solution, the doctors with the next vaccine, and engineering a whole rational society, and thinking that, yeah, even just needing to work 9 to 5 or a lot more in many people's cases, even in this country, is a necessity to make a living, to have a house, to pay for food. And I think that while a lot of people, a big chunk of society bought into that at some level, at a superficial level, but I think a lot of it was self-deceit. And that self-deceit came through in other ways that they could not verbally express or with their mind rationally justify, but it would express itself in more subtle and overt ways, like depression or laziness, lack of motivation, or compulsive shopping, or whatever it was to keep us distracted from our actual inner pain with what was going on. I think all those things aren't in our natural state. We don't need to binge on Netflix to feel good. We don't need to go shopping for the latest Gucci purses. We don't need pills to medicate ourselves and have to fight depression. We shouldn't need a whole bunch of self-help books to get up in the morning and be motivated. I mean, those are all symptoms of something a lot deeper.
Wow. That's great. That was great. You hit it right on the head. And Samuel and I sit and talk, and it's like people, when I first met Samuel, I used to say, man, why are people so apathetic? And then after a certain point, I moved from apathy to denial of reality, but you just summarized up why they all went from one point to the next and what the reasoning were and how they were able to justify their behavior. Because I look at people sometimes and I think, why aren't they responding to what they see right in front of them? I mean, you've got a country that we've just created $6 trillion out of air. There's 12 zeros in a trillion, okay? I mean, somebody should sit down and write down 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then look at what $1 trillion are. And we've created $6 trillion out of air, okay? And talking about creating another 3 trillion, and nobody's concerned about it, okay? I'm like, is this world crazy? Am I the only one that's got thinking, okay, wait a minute. When they do those creation of zeros, that's called inflation, which is creating deflation of my dollar. So that means that's taxation without representation, because everything's going to cost me more and my dollar is going to be less. So we don't look at this world and say, God, am I in this little wheel? I'm running out here and I'm having to run faster and faster because I can't make enough money to actually function in a world where I'm making more money than most people, 5 people made in a lifetime 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I can't make ends meet. But they don't look at it and say, wow, what's really going on? Why am I running like this and I'm killing myself? I'm driving an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back, and I'm sitting in this traffic and I hate it, and I go to this office that I hate, and I deal with people every day that I hate, and I come home and I hate it because I haven't been there long enough to enjoy it. What is, like you just explained, I mean, I get to the down and the dirt with it, but you explained it in such a way that makes it sound so pretty, but it's apathy and it's denial of reality. And the sicknesses that you said come behind that are addictions that are putting people in situations of credit card debt that they'll never pay off the rest of their lives. And a credit card is usury. It should be illegal, that they can charge you anywhere from 19 to 30% interest on a credit card debt. And you sit out there and, okay, I'm going to throw it out here because I've had a bad day and I'm going to go out and have cocktails at dinner, but I can't afford it. So the only way I can pay for it, put it on this credit card. Comes time to pay the bill at the end of the month, you don't pay the minimum amount. And all of a sudden you get hit with that interest. And then at certain points you had something come up and you can't pay the minimum amount. Then you get hit with late fees, and then you get hit with overdrafts. Over limits on your cards because you spent too much money, and all that stuff starts adding up. Before you know it, you're 30% interest on a credit card. What mentality would make someone do that to themselves? And it's all about what you said. They have to come up with justification for why they're denying the reality of their world. And the reality is that we were given a beautiful world, a paradise. Mm-hmm. Every day we get up and figure out how to destroy it. Every day we get up and we kill ourselves destroying it. And we never think about, God, is there another way of dealing with this world other than the way that I'm dealing with it? Is there not a better way for everybody to deal with this world than the way that I'm dealing with it now and the way that everyone around us is dealing with it? Why do we have to destroy the environment that we're in and then start looking to go to Mars and the moons to find another place to live? Help me understand the logic. Okay, I got enough money. I'm going to build me a rocket. I'm going to the moon, and I'm going to Mars, and I'm going to find some water. If I can't make it, I'm going to spend the money and make it. What about cleaning up the water here on Earth? What about cleaning up the air here on Earth? What about creating an environment that we have a beautiful biosphere right here? Look at how, in a short period of time, how much our biosphere cleaned up itself. There's dolphins swimming in Italy in the canals over there. Their fish are coming back. Everything's coming back to nature, and you're seeing it happen. You can breathe the air now because the cars aren't polluting us all day and every day, all night long. We've got so many things that we should take and look at, and God's given us an opportunity to sit back for how many months now? Almost 7 months, and say, God, this is a real world. God, how come I didn't look at it like this before? I actually have a life. My street out here, they turned it into a walk and bike trail. Okay, you can't drive a car through it unless you live in the neighborhood. And right now, up and down the street, I'm looking out the window. There's people with baby buggies. There's people walking their dogs. There's people on bicycles, and they have a life. You can't go, if you go to a store right now, go to Target, go to Walmart, go to any of the stores, Academy. You can't find a bicycle anywhere right now. So there are companies right now that are going to be booming because of the way that people are changing their lifestyle, and people were going to lose their jobs no matter what because of this automation. So now we have to retrain them for the gig economy to where they're going to be able to make enough living to be able to support themselves. But as we move to a zero margin cost of products, which with technology we will move to, then you're not going to even need that because we'll have products that will cost nothing to make. And that's what you look at with Google and Facebook. Their cost of product is zero, so they can do everything they want to do without having to charge everybody a fortune for it. So we're moving in just to a whole new world and a new perspective. And again, it's back to a quality of life instead of a quantity of life. Okay, what good does it do for you to have $1 trillion right now? What can you do with it? What can you do with it? And if you have $1 trillion, why haven't you done something with it to make this world better for everybody? How many lifetimes would it take you to spend 12 zeros? If you got on every new car you could buy, and every new house you could buy, and every new boat you could buy, and got on every plane to fly anywhere you wanted to go, how many lifetimes would it take you to spend $1 trillion?
And what are they really worth? Are they bringing you any happiness?
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's what your point is. And is it going to make you have a quality of life? And when will people, Anna, learn about a quality of life? That's what I've heard you say since we started this, is people are not looking at their quality of life. They're justifying the things that they do to themselves by buying things, by spending money on stuff they shouldn't, by doing things and doing things immorally that they shouldn't be doing. They justify their quality of life because they don't really know what a quality of life is. And I think in the last few months, people have really found a quality of life. And it wasn't because they wanted to, it was out of necessity.
And I think out of necessity, I think also if a little virus caused the world to come to a halt, caused the airlines to stop flying, stopped traffic, stopped employees from working from their workplace, and changed society's rules about how we interact and how close we interact and all that. I mean, then we're capable of really powerful things if we agree on what the goal actually is and what is actually important. But the thing is, until we come to this, if nature hadn't created this forced halt a year ago, or just 6-7 months ago, we would have been like, crazy. We can't stop the economy. We can't stop the planes from flying, and we can't all not travel for work. And everybody would have thought it would be preposterous and crazy to even suggest something like that.
And we can't give people free healthcare insurance. We can't feed the poor and hungry. And we can't do anything that would help clean up the environment, because the environment is not gonna, we don't have to worry about it. There's always gonna be clean air and clean water.
And I think part of the malaise and inner pain that we were talking about earlier comes also from the fact of a sense of separateness and individuality rather than interbeingness. And so if I just use nature as a resource to create my products, I'm just using nature rather than being in a relationship with nature. I'm using people to be able to sell my products to create services rather than being of service and having a relationship with them and something that is mutually beneficial. And so even just that feeling of basically using people, using nature to our theoretical benefit, which is no benefit, after all, just creates a lot of inner pain. And I think it's just part of the whole picture I think we're slowly coming to see a little bit at the time, that we are all interrelated. As humans, we're all interrelated because we can pass on the virus, and we're related to nature. Nature has its powers. And I think that will be a major realization for most people, just to understand all the beauty and the power of our connection, interbeingness. And because we all can also create much more powerful things from that place. And I would like to say also, we can tap into more magic in that way, instead of just always having our own agenda and thinking, oh, this is the great solution. I've thought it all through rationally and I have a plan. What about what the universe can deliver that we haven't even thought about, but that the collective can create? So I think it's an opportunity to see that and to hold space for that kind of possibility, and also to reflect perhaps a little bit on our cultural arrogance and superiority that we've shown towards more ancient societies, more tribal societies, that have never really doubted our interbeingness, and that and seeing nature and animals as sentient beings, just like children do. Why do we feel so superior and why are we so arrogant and just want to focus on using our brains rather than seeing perhaps the truth to those things of our interrelatedness, and that there is intelligence and a feeling or a being in itself in a lot of things beyond human beings and maybe some pets.
I feel we've all moved in the last few months to a higher plane of spiritual alignment with everything around us, not just the earth, but even our, as you said, the people around us that we can't be around anymore. We actually appreciate the people that we didn't appreciate before, the society that we had to where we could go out and have a social life and social beings. And so I think that this has been a blessing in disguise to force us into alignment with reality of spirituality and not, like you said, use the mind for everything. You know, we have an inner guidance that we forgot how to use. One of our senses was our spirituality. And I think we're being forced back into a spiritual world, whether we like it or not. And the only way you can function right now is in a spiritual world. And a lot of people have had a few months to look at themselves and say, God, was I really happy doing what I was doing? Am I really happy being who I am? Am I really happy with the relationship I have with my family? Am I really happy with the relationships I have with my friends? Did I take everything that I had for granted? Look how quick it could all be taken away. And what should I really appreciate that I have? Number one, just safety and health now is priority. And we take that for granted. And the three most important things we have are our safety, our health, and our youth. And we took all those things for granted. Now people are looking at them and they're all of a sudden becoming of value. They're becoming their most important asset. Right now, most people's lives and their health is their most valuable asset. They can forget about a Ferrari or a Maserati. If you did, you ain't going nowhere. Okay? So people are starting to really look at what really is important. And I think that we all are moving to a higher level of consciousness, as Anna said, but we're also moving into a higher level of intelligence, because now we're, as you said, Anna, we're using the brain for what we should have been using it for all along versus what we're using it for. And I think that once we move to this higher level of consciousness and higher level of intelligence, we're going to force other people to move, because none of the things that they're doing will mean anything to us or them, because it's like, okay, you've got to come to a consciousness of spirituality and alignment with the earth. And if you can't do that, then you can't function in this world anymore, because all that other stuff don't value to us anymore. If we said tomorrow that we're not going to buy anything from Walmart, Walmart would go out of business in less than a month. And so it's, right now in this country, 70% of the economy is based on consumption. Okay. And consumption right now is down from 40 to 70% in different industries. Okay. Even would you think the food industry was doing good? The food industry is down by 27% right now. So every industry has been affected by this. So how do you rebuild this ecosystem to where, number one, it becomes sustainable, to where we're not destroying the earth? And how do you build it to where we're not doing waste the way that we were? And how do we use this time period to look at it and say, okay, now the system is broken. How do we rebuild it to where it's sustainable for everyone, not just for the 1% of the people that want to control everything in the world because of their greed and their ego? But how do we make this a beautiful world? I shouldn't say how do we make it a beautiful world. How do we take advantage of the beautiful world that God gave us, that we have taken so much for granted?
So yeah, definitely. I've been listening to you on the spiritual part of the conversation. It really got me, because normally, an issue that this coronavirus help us understand is that these people are very rich. When they have left the thing.
But what is being rich now?
That's what I'm saying. When they think they were rich, now they think that now the next step for them is to control the world. See, me seeing this from not only from the US, but I see also from other countries. So yeah, so the domination, that's what it really was about. So the domination, the mindset of these few people, very rich, they thought they made it. They didn't know there was creation. They really want to be up there with God, They tell you what to do, they tell you what to eat, they tell you, sometimes they will tell you even not to breathe, that this air here, they want maybe to find a way to control this air so that you breathe only when they want to. That was the next step. So that's why we're so happy that this coronavirus came and then and equalize everything. Like you all said, people don't want to go back to work, and I don't blame them, because You know, you go to work every day and pretend. Because I don't know what kind of work you will go every day, 28 hours a day, you never finish. So,
And Anna probably can articulate this better than I would be right now, but the mind has a tool called justification.
mm,
And people justify everything that they're going through because they're willing to look at one thing and give it up for another
Right.
thing, and they never really look at what they're really giving up is their spiritual lives.
definitely.
And what we are at a point now is now people are working from a spiritual alignment more so than a mental alignment, because they don't have a lot of mental things that they can address or identify to. So they
Right.
have to work from their spiritual mind now versus their body mind. And their spiritual mind is saying, this ain't right. And this is what a lot of people are going to have to deal with, from corporations to government to education, is that the spiritual mind is telling everyone. I work with a lot of the kids at the universities, and they're all calling me and saying, Sam, this is not right. I don't want to have to go back in there and maybe put my life in jeopardy to go get an education. There's got to be a better way than this. There are people calling me now saying, Sam, this money that they gave us, it's not going to pay for me not being able to do business anymore. And so what if I can pay my employees and pay my rent for a couple months? I'm going to still be out of business.
Mhm.
And so nobody's looking and saying, how do we evolve and move forward as a group of people that's going to be sustainable for everyone? And it's going to take them, they call it Jubilee. This is the largest Jubilee in the history of the world that we're going to. And they said Jubilee comes every 50 years, where there's a redistribution of wealth. And what you're looking at is now that money is not wealth, power is wealth. And right now, what they're doing is using money to disempower the people here in this country, because they're willing to jeopardize everything that they've worked and built for, instead of taking the mindset and saying, I have to look at this and evolve and move into this new era and into this new dimension. And it's two things. You're moving into a new era and a new dimension. And until they acknowledge that and deal with it, they're going to go defunct. And there's a lot of them already have. I mean, and if you look at the way that these companies are going under, until we all as a country sit down and say, okay, we got to quit fighting. There's no difference between any of us. We're all human beings. There's only one race, the human race. Everything else is a culture, right? And, it's like when, I think a good example of culture is when you and I office together, and you saw my culture and I saw your culture, and we saw how far our worlds really were. And people would say, oh, they're black guys, okay, but our cultures were two different cultures. And I think that learning other people's culture is the bridge to making us a better world, where I understand your world and you understand mine, and we're not in condemnation of other people's viewpoints. We have to align ourselves to have an ability to agree to disagree. And once we do that, we'll grow. Until we get to that point that we're, instead of all this and pulling on each other, we're gonna all have to get here and move forward, because this is the only thing that's gonna save us right now. And when I say save us, the consequences of us not making the changes we need to make in the next 2 to 3 months are going to be devastating for this country. Very devastating.
So yeah, definitely. That's why when I met Anne, I met her one time there was a conference somewhere here in Austin. I went over there and I saw her speak, and I got her call. See, so that's why I thought what she was doing was extremely powerful. And that's about 6-7 years ago.
A while back.
6,
Yeah. It's a while. Maybe not 7, but it's definitely
Yeah.
been a while.
So because, they talk about culture, because when somebody focus on trying to learn other people's culture, that's a power right there. I mean,
It's not just about being more effective, of course, in a business environment, and it's not even just about creating an environment of peace and respect and understanding, it is also an amazing opportunity at the individual level to expand our perspectives and understand other perspectives, take in other perspectives, add new values to our own values, and therefore tap into the whole, right? And it's a win-win for everybody.
Do you write as well as you speak?
I need to.
You're articulated in such a manner because, you know, I'm sort of harsh when I bring it out, and sometimes people you bring it out and it sounds so much different, but you're saying so much to say. It's like amazing the way you bring it to the table. Okay.
Well, I think it's all good. That's why we're all here together, because we're all reflecting something for one another. And sharing, just bringing in the different pieces of the puzzle so we can better see the whole picture. And that's the beauty. That's why we all need each other.
And right now, what we're doing needs to be done more. We're not talking about business, but talking about life and figuring out how we expand our mindsets and how we learn how to understand other cultures and other people's ways. And I'll tell you, to be honest, this is the first time that I've had this long of a conversation, because Anna, with you, because usually we're running through meetings and talking and speaking. And it's been another perspective of you that I really appreciate and understand you now much better than, and I thank you, Samuel, for giving me this opportunity to understand her, because I didn't know her to the point that I know her now. And I think this is a key to all of us moving forward, is sitting down and having these conversations instead of talking about things that don't matter. Talk about things that really matter to everyone right now.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. And I think the interesting thing is, I don't know if it was the last time I saw you, but I think it was last year at the International Business Coalition, one of their meetings. And I hadn't been to one in a while, although I had otherwise been attending them for many, many years, basically since I've been here in Austin, or at least since, anyways, for a long time. And I was going through a phase, just because I was also evolving professionally and within my own personal identity as well, that I didn't really care to go for a while. And then when that meeting came up, and I was like, okay, no, I'll go today. And I went with a different attitude, because as much as I speak and value integrity in the sense of being whole and showing up as a whole person, regardless of the environment or the context, regardless of where I'm with my goofy friends or whether I'm at a professional event or with a client, I also definitely had the tendency to categorize people in my life. And there are, whether it was work and business relationships and my social relationships, and even within my friendships, they were categorized, so to say, between my international salsa dancing scene, my spiritual scene, other people that I've engaged in other kind of rituals with and practices. And that day, whenever that was last year, I decided just to show up as I was. And I remember even dressing less formally than I used to dress at a business meeting and at a networking event. And I remember, you perhaps don't remember, but I'm pretty sure you were there. And for the first time, I think in that environment, started talking a little bit about my spiritual perspective and sharing that. And several other people then, because I gave myself permission to show that side of myself, which before I somehow regarded as a taboo in that environment, all of a sudden other people opened up and showed that side. And I think I remember you opening up a little bit in that way as well. So like for me, that was a mini pivotal moment of, instead of just seeing people in suits and jackets and thinking in my own head, oh, I'm only showing up as a professional here, as an intercultural business trainer, as a business owner of cultural confidence. I showed up and was willing to show my other side and gave that importance, and that gave permission to others. That created a much greater connection and meaning for me in relating with other people. So yes, as you say, these kind of conversations are really important. and they're not only satisfying for the soul, but I think they will also allow us to allow the solutions to emerge by themselves or through the collective, rather than having to rack our brains right now as to what we should do next. Because there's always this should mentality, which is very hard for us to get rid of. And I think it's part of like the doing mentality, the force mentality of making something happen, rather than having faith and knowing that when you're aligning yourself to your truth, aligning yourself to the whole and what wants to be, the solutions will actually appear to you very easily and with a far better reach and impact than what you could have possibly ever imagined. So, I mean, I'm super grateful, Samuel, for you for putting this on. Thank you so much. And it's been so good to have this conversation and connect with you at a deeper level, Sam.
Samuel, thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate it. I had no idea how this was going to go today, but it gave me a better perspective on the human world, that we are capable of sitting down and coming up with some common ground where we can start building foundations. And as you said, Anna, it gave the bridge for people to start having that common ground. And I think, as you said, Anna, it's going to have to go, rather than just here. It's going to have to keep spreading like wildfire, and we're going to have to find that ground, because it's going to take a lot of us to rebuild what's coming apart right now. But we have an opportunity to do it in a way that's going to be sustainable, and also it's going to be empowering to everyone on this earth.
Say again, I'm so grateful. Go ahead, Ann.
No, I was going to do a screenshot of our meeting.
Okay.